welcome everyone to the next episode of the Saucy Sounds podcast. Have a very special guest today, Dion, and I met him through Instagram. He's another beast on the keys, and I've been following his content and decided, you know what, I want to get to know this guy and see the man behind the curtain. So thank you so much, Dion, for being on here.
Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Like, when did you start playing and why did you start playing?
So I started playing in I want to say 1998, 99. And it actually all started just because one Christmas, my mom wanted to get us a little keyboard, my siblings and I, get us a little keyboard just so that we can play around on it, mess around. And after the hype of Christmas, it died off. My siblings kind of left it alone, and I was the one that kept going back to it. And so my parents decided, hey, let's sign them up for lessons. And that following school year, I started piano lessons, and it's just been history ever since. I just kept up with it, and I went to college, got my Bachelor of Music in Piano Performance, and just been doing music all my life, man. That's pretty much how that story goes.
Sweet. Yeah. So, was there any particular background you were trained in? Were jazz, classical, or was it just kind of anything, everything?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just a stroke of luck or if it was just destiny, but I definitely went the classical route. And I didn't really get into jazz and more contemporary styles until probably 2009, 2010, when I was getting out of high school. And I was like, man, I mean, classical is great and all, but contemporary is kind of the way to go just because we're keeping up with the times, So yeah, I started getting into pop and jazz and blues, gospel styles, things like that, about 10 or so years ago.
Okay. I could tell because you have nice technique, and I was like, yeah, his technique is way better than mine. It looks like he's got some classical chops.
Nah.
Okay, sweet. Well, do you have any particular, so you played all different genres. Is there any one particular that kind of resonates with you?
Yeah. So I'm going to be a classical guy at heart just because it's that's the genre that I kind of just started with, and that's what I was initially drawn to. But there are seasons, right? There are seasons where I'll just be heavily on the gospel vibe. There are other seasons where I'll be heavily on the jazz vibe, and I'm just listening to only Oscar Peterson or whoever, all the greats, right? But I'm always gonna come back to classical and just heavily be there.
Now that's what's up, man. My sister was a classical pianist. So funny thing is, I didn't start playing piano until I was 19. So okay. I was late to the game. I was playing drums and sax and trumpet, stuff like that. My sister was just a monster. I mean, from Tchaikovsky, Debussy, Rachmaninoff, she was just murdering the piano. And I was like, yeah, there's no need for me to touch that. So, and she would go to these competitions. I mean, it was so intense, man. I'm like, prize money and all this stuff. So yeah. When I got to college, I was playing sax and jazz combos. And I remember I got to college, and the church I was going to up there in the jazz trio combo, they were like, yeah, we need a piano player. We don't need a sax guy. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just start playing piano. Yeah. And that's why I picked. I was so trash too. It was hilarious. It was bad. But that's how I got started into piano. So it was way later. Awesome. But I've always been on the jazz side of things. And so it's always been fascinating to me, the differences in mentalities. Now you're more of a rare breed because most classical musicians that I meet, they're either insanely chill or just insanely uptight. It's never in the middle.
That is very true. I've never found an even balance between the two. So it's funny that you say that.
Yeah, I'm they either hate me or they get along with me.
I feel you, man.
Dude, that reminds me. So, obviously with Instagram comes the trolls. This is how, there's this one guy, I was talking about playing a cadence, right? Uh-huh. I was like, yeah, so, here's a cadence that you could do. And now mind you, this is a 10-second snippet from a longer course, from a gospel worship keys flow course, right?
Right.
And in the course, I'm talking about how you can free flow or you can cadence, right? And I was referring to cadence as you can take a chord progression and you can, put a cadence behind it so it's got a rhythm, and it can become white noise so the audience doesn't necessarily hear it.
Right.
So this guy's like, you don't even know what a cadence is. I'm like, man, if you don't get your Western classical theory having stuff out my face with this plagal and negative, I was like, I know what a cadence is, but it's also,
Zach, everybody's an expert, man.
bruh, it had me dead. I'm like, has anyone forgot that cadence also applies to like rhythm? But I also play drums, so
Right.
So is there any funny stories or trolls that you've incurred on your Instagram?
Yeah, just I think it was yesterday. I just put up this video where I think the caption was something to the effect of "If I Want It That Way" by the Backstreet Boys was written for a Disney movie.
Right, I saw that. That was cool.
So I'm just, playing, doing my thing, whatever. And it's just, with social media, especially because you're trying to put out content at like in bulk, right? So you're not thinking about all the specifics and you're speaking in broad terms when you're coming up with these captions a lot of the time. And, I had a couple of people that were like, I'm getting the lighthearted vibe, but it's not really Disney. I can't call this Disney. And then another person chimed in, like replying to that comment. I totally agree. Da 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 da. This doesn't hit the Disney vibe, And I'm like, guys, it's just, it's just fun entertainment. It's just, silly little things. It's meant to be enjoyed, not to write a thesis based on the caption. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, for us as creators, just kind of a bit of a side note, for us as creators, we our audience has to understand that we all have different backgrounds, and everybody in general, you're not going to put two people in a room and have them agree on 100% of everything that's discussed, not typically anyway. So people have different interpretations, and yes, there are rules and things like that need to be adhered to, so to say, but again, with social media, you tend to speak in broad terms as a creator. You tend to put things in broad terms, content-wise, and people sometimes think that the content that they're watching or the creators that they're following need to cater to them, and it just doesn't work like that. It doesn't go like that. So I know I'm not trying to preach to you, but that's just for whoever might be watching this in the future.
Oh no, that's fine, man. I'm always listening and learning, so you never can know too much. Speaking of the content game, so when did you get started in it, and like what made you start in the whole content game?
That's a great question. So
kind of like what I was saying just a minute ago, it was all to just be fun, just to be entertaining. More so for me, just because I wanted to have a place to document some of the musical adventures I was going on. But yeah, I think I probably first started putting up music focused content in like 2014, 2015. Right. And it wasn't supposed to be anything serious. It was just supposed to be a way for me to share what I was doing with family and friends. Right. And it wasn't until the pandemic, February, March 2020, that I was like, you know what? I have a lot of free time. Let me see what I can actually do with this. And at that time, everybody was in the same boat. Everybody was like, oh, I got a ton of free time. I'm going to make a course. I'm going to make a bunch of video tutorials. I'm going to get on YouTube. And people were really going hard after trying to make this another revenue stream for them. But for me, it was just like, oh, well, I want to just put out better content. It wasn't even about like the money and trying to create a business or anything like that. But it did end up morphing into that after the pandemic and things started opening up and I got to perform again, So yeah, it's been a long while for me, but I would really say I started becoming a content creator about midway through 2020.
Okay, awesome. So what has been your favorite part of the journey so far?
My favorite part of the journey is... That's a hard question. One of my favorite parts of the journey is just getting to see how different viewers resonate with the content that I put out. So whether that be something educational or whether it just be something solely for the sake of entertainment, I love seeing the comments that are like, yo, this helped me out so much, you breaking this down, or yo, I never thought about playing this song that way. So that's really why I'm in this. I love teaching. I love helping. If I could drive to everybody's house and give them a personal lesson, I would, but obviously that's not feasible. So I'm using this as an avenue to try to teach people and put out some educational content that people might not have access to, you know?
Okay, awesome. What has been the least favorite part of the journey so
Oh
far?
man, the least favorite. There are a lot of non-favorites. Probably my least favorite is having to do the time management thing, right? Because there's so much to do, right? Like I recently bought a house, like it's taking care of the house, taking care of the bills, and you know, I'm a married man, so it's spending time with the wife, and it's, you know, finding work and doing things like that. It's just a huge balancing act, you know what I mean? And I get that that's life, but then you add this aspect of having to put out content, and people are like, yo, when's the next video dropping? And they're like jumping down your throat like, hey, we want more, we want more. You know, so that's one of the challenges that definitely comes to doing what we do.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly agree. The people don't really know what it takes behind the scenes to put out content consistently like that. Like, I mean, it's a huge toll creatively, and you know, especially like where you're in that transition limbo spot before you can really make it full time. Like, gosh, like just trying to put out. I think I started content creation last year in June, and I remember telling myself, I said, Zach, just post for a year. And, you know, because I was in a spot where my music career, I just kind of felt like, what am I doing with it, you know? And like with the pandemic and all, like, a lot of gigs being lost and things of that nature. And I just was, and I also too just dealt with a lot of insecurities with my playing, because I didn't have the traditional, like I didn't go to school for music, and I didn't have like the traditional route. So it was like almost like a am I legit type situation.
Right.
And so I said, you know, I said, Zach, just if anything that you learned from the pandemic, it's like start building your own brand, start building your own wheelhouse, like start investing more into yourself. And I said, just commit the time. Don't worry about the results. Just commit the time. Have fun with it. Just post for a year straight. And then if it doesn't work out, you can at least let it go in peace, knowing that you did, you know. So funny story, 3 months in, and then it was like started taking off. And then a year later, and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm at like 96,000. Like, I just never in my wildest imagined would have even thought, you know, and, you know, it's like you're saying, just how people resonate with the content. It's a really humbling experience, because it's like, wow, people really appreciate what it is you're doing. And it's like taking the time to be true to yourself long enough for other people to discover you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what's really cool is watching how the different artists have different styles of content and different voice. And I think so many people get into the competitive nature that they miss out on like the joy of the community. And that's kind of been my whole like desire, which is why you're here, is more of like, let's get that community of musicianship back versus the I'm the best ever. It's like, how about we appreciate the differences in creativity, because everyone has a different voice. So that's kind of been my thing on it. So I want to kind of switch gears and talk about some music gear. So I want to know, what is your favorite hardware piano, if you have one?
Man, my favorite hardware. Okay, so I can only speak to what I personally have touched or used, right? So if we're talking like digital piano, sound coming straight out of that board, I have to give it to the Nord Stage 3. Okay. And the reason I give it to that board is because I used that board most recently at a conference that I played, I want to say in 2021. And it was, you know, just piece of backline gear, because they told me, hey, don't travel with anything. We need to keep it light. We need to be on the move really, really frequently. So I was like, okay, every venue is going to have what do we need? Whatever. If not, we go to Guitar Center or something. So we get there. I show up to the gig. The one thing I did have was my keyboard stand. And they bring out this Nord Stage 3. I'm like, I played on like the Nord 1, the Nord Stage 1, something like 7-8 years ago. And then so get to the venue, get on the Stage 3, and just right out of the box, just turning it on. Like, I didn't have to tweak anything. I was like, I'm going to play like the first half of the set with just this stock keyboard sound. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so plug and play, so to say. But yeah, that's probably my favorite. What I use here in my studio, this is a Yamaha P 125. The white version, a lot of people ask me about this. So if any of our followers overlap, here's your answer. So this is a Yamaha P125. I just built just a custom white shell around it to make it look like an upright piano. So yeah, that's what I use. I just use it mainly as a MIDI controller to control all my VSTs and things like that. So I got to give it to Nord. I got to give it to Yamaha. I've used just about every board from Yamaha over the years. So, but Nord is fantastic. I'd love to have one in the studio.
Okay, so you kind of touched on the next question I had. So we talked about the hardware digital piano. So you got it plugged up doing your VSTs and digital instruments. What's your favorite software piano?
My favorite software piano. So lately I've been using the Noir piano by Native Instruments. Fantastic sounds. I cannot find, well, let me not say that. I was going to say I can't find anything wrong with it, but I can't find anything that hinders my creativity in terms of sound quality or just ease of navigating around the sound, right? It really sounds like an actual acoustic piano and acoustic spaces that I've personally been in. You know, again, I'm coming from the classical world, so I'm listening for what actually sounds like if I'm in a small hall versus a large hall, you know, things like that. Outside of that, second favorite, I love pretty much anything by Spitfire Audio. They put out great samples. One of my gripes with them, though, and again, this isn't like a make or break deal for me, so if anybody's listening to this, don't think this is I'm not telling you not to buy Spitfire. One of my gripes with them is sometimes some of their samples can be like too raw, or they go after this too realistic thing, and you get like this ambient noise, like somebody's turning a page, or, you know, somebody's leaning up against a wall, just different little things that are like, you know, those things can ruin a take in a real world situation in a high end studio. So some of those things get to be a little bit annoying, but I love pretty much everything from them.
Okay, yeah, Spitfire, they're nice. I like a lot of their orchestral samples in general, the strings and whatnot. I really like, I'm into composition, and so like just scoring for strings and things of that nature, but they've got some high quality stuff for sure.
Yeah.
So I grew up, since my sister played classical, we had a Yamaha C7. Right? We had a 9-foot grand there. Yeah, very fortunate to have been able to get one of those. So do you have a favorite, like, physical, actual, like, grand piano, upright piano? Like, what's your favorite actual physical piano?
Yeah. Okay. So when I was in college, I went to Florida State University. When I was there, they had a Bosendorfer piano, and they had it in like a 2,000 seat hall, right? Just massive sound coming out of the instrument itself. But then you put it in a space like that, it you know, not to sound cheesy, but it really was a grand sound. Yeah, that was probably my favorite acoustic piano to play on ever in my life. And that means a lot, because I played in one of the halls at Carnegie Hall, and they had a really nice Steinway, but yeah, it did not compare to this piano. Again, different situation, larger hall, different kind of sound, but
Right. Yeah, you know, I think the one drawback to all this digital age is some people don't really understand what it's like to hear a piano live in the room. It's just another experience, you know, even as a player, like just to feel the heavy wood keys and the immediate feedback and like just the resonance of the chords and the overtones. Like, it's really a unique and special experience to just have a piano that you don't have to turn it on, no speakers to cut on, you just sit down and you go. I think so when I was in college in San Francisco, I was majoring in finance, but I took a crap ton of music courses. And so one of them was gospel choir. And so another thing for all the viewers watching, you may not know, but you can actually take an acoustic piano and change its voicing. And what that means is you're changing the timbre of the instrument. So whereas a C7 is typically known as being a bright piano, that's not necessarily the case. You can have a piano tech change the voicing so it's like a softer timbre. And so there was this C7 we had in the rehearsal hall of the gospel choir room, and I don't know who who like tweaked it, but the voicing on that thing, it was like this weird blend. It's like they took the brightness and they cut it down to like 6. And so the piano still cut, but it had like a soft plunk to it. And I just was obsessed with it. And so it's actually a really big influence into a lot of my program sounds now in my Nord that you hear on my channel. So yeah, I really love like soft, rounded pianos. And so a lot of my shorts and a lot of my content, you'll see like I'm not playing a classically bright, not classically, like a classic type of stereotypical bright Yamaha sound. And funny story, I started playing Nords in church back in like 2017, before they got popular in church, right?
Of course.
So, because Nords was always on CCM land, and it was never like the gospel land, right? So I would show up to church gigs, and they'd be like, "Why you got that Nord, man? Where's your Yamaha?" Fast forward 5 years, and Mike Burrell, and everyone's got a Nord.
Yeah, everybody's playing Nords, man.
So I was like, I guess I was on to something. That's funny stuff, man. Let me look at my questions here because I'm a rookie. I had to write these suckers down. Okay, here's the next one. So, last question about gear. So, do you have like a dream piece of gear or a dream setup, or is there like any type of like dream setup that you're trying to attain, or?
That's a good question. So for me, like, I try to evolve as new things come out. And I try to evolve as, you know, my skills evolve, my ears evolve, and things like that. Workflow evolves and all that good stuff. For a long time, I wanted a particular set of speakers, studio monitors. Right now, I'm running the Yamaha HS8s, and I've got I think this is an Atom. Yeah, it's an Atom audio sub underneath the desk. And just because, like, when you spend so much time working in a certain way and listening in a certain way, you get accustomed to that. So to change that can be a huge challenge for people. So I've kind of held off on making certain changes just because I've grown accustomed to a particular workflow, and I've grown accustomed to listening in a certain way. But if I had to answer the question and say there's a dream piece of gear that I wanted, for a long time I've looked at studio monitors by Focal Audio. I've heard them in person, and they're just outstanding. They are pricey, but there's a reason they're pricey, because you're not going to hear things listening to any old speakers, right? You have to listen to things on those speakers.
Do you remember which model they were?
At the time, those were the twins. The twin, I think this twin BE, something like that. Yeah. But I know they've got the SM9s. I haven't heard those, but those twins sounded really, really nice.
Yeah, no, they're sweet. My favorite, so Focal actually makes my favorite monitors as well. Right now, I've got the JBL LSR 306s. My favorite ones are the Shape series. The Focal Shape. So they have the 6. I'm a fan of 7-inch woofers. They have that one and the twins. The twin, I think, for the pair, it's like $2,500. Which actually, in the grand scheme of things, isn't all that bad. You know.
No.
I mean, you could buy, for the price of a Nord Stage 4, you could get a car.
I know,
you can get a lot. So, you know, in the grand scheme, it's not so bad. What is your take on that, by the way? I mean, some people, I did a review on the Nord Stage 4. So I'm just curious what your take is. Some people are like, oh, we hate the price. Some people are like, hey, it's just the cost of admission. It's your main gear. You use it all the time. Like, what's your take on that?
So this answer is not specific to the Nord. This answer is for any time you're going to go purchase new gear. I think in general, if this purchase is not going to earn you the same that you spent on that piece of gear at some point in the relatively near future, I wouldn't do it. Me personally, I can't justify spending $6,000 on a piece of gear, whatever it might be, if that is going to prevent me from having dinner with my wife out at a restaurant. You know what I mean? Things like that. Like if the return doesn't outweigh or at least match the initial investment, I think it's a waste. So do it that what you will, listeners.
I love it. So, going back to your channel, so now you're knee deep in the content game. Things are going well in that regard. What's like your long-term goal? I know you recently launched some courses and it looks like you got a little website up going. What's kind of your long-term vision? It's for Eastway Studios, right? Or
Eastway Studios, yeah. Eastway Studios is the name of my company. So long-term goal. So before I started doing all the content and all that stuff, you mentioned earlier that you like to compose. So I've been composing as well for a very long time. Like even before I really started performing pretty heavily, I was doing the composition thing. So most primarily what I do is composing. I compose for a music library that they specialize in musical content for like crime and mystery. You know, if you think crime scene investigation, Law and Order, murder mystery, stuff like that. So primarily I'm composing. Long term, I want to lean more into that. But like I was saying earlier, I love teaching. I love educating. Piano is my primary instrument, so I teach piano, but I'm heavily in the composition game as well. So I would love to just have the two be my two main things for the long-term future.
Okay. Now, are you on YouTube by chance?
I am, but not active. So that's another aspect to it, right? As I'm teaching and wanting to make free resources for people, that is one of the things that I definitely want to make available to those who might not have access to be able to afford some courses or one-on-one lessons.
Right. Yeah, I recently started getting active on YouTube a few months back, and I think long term, that is like, I think just YouTube in general is going to be the king for a long time in terms of just like social presence, just because it's got the long and the short. And if someone said, could you take, if someone said, hey Zach, we'll give you 200,000 Instagram subscribers or 50,000 YouTube subscribers or even 25,000 YouTube subscribers, like that's an easy. And I think that kind of speaks to the balance in terms of like the quality of subscriber per se.
Yeah,
I think YouTube subscribers in general are just a little bit more engaged because, again, no shade to the Instagram following. I love y'all. And I started like let's not. You guys are already gonna twist that. But just the nature of the platform, like with Instagram, it's like you're saying, you can't even properly teach on an Instagram clip. All you can do is like say, hey, here's just a tip to kind of get your brain going. But like on YouTube, you can really put out a video saying, hey, okay, like this is really what I'm trying to do. And so you want to do composition and piano long-term teaching. Do you, like with your website, do you find like, I just want the audience to learn more about you and what they're going to get coming from the future. So I just want to put you out there, help support. So what can they expect in the near to, mid-distance future? Like, can they expect, like, hey, he's going to have some courses for us or some music to purchase, or how can they get involved with you?
Yeah. I mean, you just answered the question. I don't even have to talk now. So yeah, you're going to get exactly that. So right now on my website, I have I have one course that focuses specifically on gospel runs. Like if you think your typical gospel shout, your gospel bump, whatever the term is that you like to use, it focuses specifically on that. We talk about the execution of it, technique wise, mechanic wise. We talk about the thinking behind it, the theory behind it, if you will. And I have actually next week coming out another course that focuses specifically on chords, functional harmony, talking about the bare bones of it, getting down to the elementary theory of it. And from that's going to help you really be on your way to reharmonization, analyzing songs that you hear on the radio. Oh, I can play that because now I know what the theory is behind it. Now I know what the chord structure is behind it. Things like that. So outside of that, as far as sheet music offerings, I do have some bits of sheet music on there. I have free resources on there as well that'll definitely help you get you on your way to just understanding music as a whole. That's what my goal is. Plenty of people can sit down and make sound come out of a keyboard. It's easy to do that, but to actually understand what you're doing and then move on to actually creating something nice, that is what I want to help people do.
All right, awesome, man. And what if you could give one piece of advice to just the general audience, you know, when it comes to just music in general, maybe your take, like what would you say to them?
One piece of advice I would say is be patient. Be patient. And the reason I say that is because it takes patience. No, if one of the things that I see, especially in the age that we live in, it's so easy for us to go online and see somebody who plays better than you and I put together. And hey, I got this course, learn how to do this. And it's like, that's not realistic. So I feel like people are going to watch something like that and see this course offering and be like, oh, in a month, I'm going to be able to play like that. No, that's 20, 30 years of experience and knowledge and wisdom behind this person who posted this content. There's no way you're going to get that in a month. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. So I would just say be patient with whatever you're trying to learn. Be patient with whatever you're trying to achieve. And yeah, just stick with it in the long run. And I'm telling you, you're going to see the snowball effect as you just gradually learn and gradually put something into practice. It's going to happen. Those skills are going to build on top of each other, but you're not going to get the 2-week, 3-week, 4-week result that you might want. Okay. So be patient.
No, that's really good advice. And you're right. I mean, it's like so many people, you know, it's like you look at the course and it's like, dude, at least give yourself 2 years. Like no matter what you do on any skill, whether it be operating cameras or, you know, drawing, whatever it is, like dedicate the time, not the result. And I think that's one of the big things that as creators, as people in general, we kind of mess up is we dedicate results and goals, but we don't dedicate to the time. And, you know, it kind of goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. Like I told myself last year, like, hey, you're just going to post once a day, every day for the next year. And your goal is simply just to accomplish that. Whatever happens, happens. But the goal is like just post every day. And in doing that, it's like, lo and behold, something came from it.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. Like just the patience of like, hey, just practice a little bit every day. You know, I think, and matter of fact, coming from the classical world, I know you're gonna understand this. I think a lot of people think, oh, I gotta do 8 hours a day. And granted, there are some musicians who do that, and that's a part of their regimen, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think people severely underestimate your statement with patience. Because when I hear that, I hear consistency. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you could practice just 20 minutes a day, but you practiced every day, in just 30 days alone, you'd see some serious growth. It's something about just doing it every day.
Yeah.
You know, people think you got to sit there and it's like, man, if you just took 30 minutes,
right?
But like focus practice, not like, oh, I'm just kind of, but like, hey, today I'm going to work on these harmonic minor scales and I'm going to blast that. And you just did it for 30 days straight. You'd come out that month like actually knowing that material.
Right.
So I thoroughly agree.
Just to speak to that a little bit more, I remember hearing that allegedly Jimi Hendrix, he would wake up in the morning and every day he would do everything with his guitar. He would go to the bathroom with his guitar. He would brush his teeth, whatever. He'd make his breakfast with his guitar. And it's like, sure, he loved the instrument, but it's just that mentality of consistency, like you said, right? Consistency. I think that's the dichotomy there, right? You need to have those two things. You need to be patient in your endeavor, but with that patience, you need to have the consistency. Okay. I don't think you can have one without the other and still expect success, however you want to measure success. You definitely need to have both.
Nah, 1,000%, man, 1,000%. Well, that gives us all the time for today's episode. Where can the people find you? Shout out all your tags, websites, Instagram, YouTube, and any last words you want to say, go for it.
Yeah, so you guys can all find me at DionTMusic.com. That's my website. As far as all the socials, you can find me at DionTMusic. All right, at Instagram, DIONT Music. Same thing on TikTok. Same thing on YouTube. Just search Dion Todman. All come up. And my parting words, just stick with it, friends. I mean, music is beautiful. I've dedicated so much of my life to it and have seen so much fruit come from it. And I want to help you guys do the same and help you guys find the same.
Sweet. Well, you heard it from the man himself. Dion, really appreciate you coming on here and speaking with us. Excited to see where you go. I will definitely be having you back on again. It'll be fun to check in and just to see where things are, later down the road and how things are going and how much that vision is being accomplished. But until next time, appreciate y'all. And as always, stay saucy.